Hi. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. The name of this show is Guess What? Guess what? You just saw the beginning and the ending of my singing career. We're going to talk about herbs today, ergo the song. Starting off by saying dried herbs are stronger than the fresh. So when you're using the bottled herbs you buy from the store versus what you cut from your gardens or your pots, you're going to use 2 to 1. You're going to use 1 teaspoon of dry and or 2 teaspoons of fresh. Just help you a little bit. And for heaven's sakes, please keep your herbs in the jars, in your cupboards, away from your stove. I know they're very handy there, but they've got to be kept away from heat and light. The heat just dries them out anymore, and any oils left in them where the flavor is will just be cooked right out of them. So move them if you need to. Now we're going to talk about some basic guidelines here of what herb goes best with what meat. Beef, bay leaf, chives. You can grow chives in your garden. It's a perennial. It'll come back. You just keep clipping it off. They're like a pseudo oniony flavor, just light flavor. Cumin, garlic. Again, garlic you can grow in your garden or in pots. Any of these can be grown either way. Take a clove of garlic, stick it in the ground, head pointing up, base towards the bottom. Cover it up, water it, forget it. Next year, maybe middle of the summer, you're going to have this tall stalk that's going to grow, and then on top of it, it's going to look like little mini garlic cloves. It'll get a little bit dry. There you go. Dig it out, and there you got your own garlic. You can keep doing that year after year. It's kind of a fun thing to do, and it's an interesting looking plant in your garden. All right, back to the beef. The bay leaves, the cumin, the garlic. Hot peppers are very good with beef. Marjoram, similar to basil, but milder. Oregano, a little bit stronger. Rosemary. Savory is a plant that you don't see very often. I have grown it in my garden. It's good in, just chop them up and throw them in there. And then, of course, ginger root, which we're not going to grow, we'll buy. What did I want to say about, rosemary. That is one very difficult plant to grow. I know it goes like crazy in Italy, but not so much here. We can buy them, successfully grow them in the summer. Very few people can overwinter them and have them come through the next spring. Really don't know why. Okay, breads. You're going to use anise seeds, caraway seeds, coriander. Coriander, by the way, is the seed to, I have it written here, is the seed to cilantro. That was difficult, wasn't it? So we have 2 ways of using cilantro, the seeds. But again, in the breads, the coriander, dill, garlic, marjoram again, oregano, rosemary, and thyme. Hence my song, Rosemary and Thyme. I'm sorry to subject you to that twice. Butter your bread. Add any one of those, toast, butter. Add any one of those things, and you have a very tasty, different something to eat. Cheese. Now, whether you're going soft cheese or hard cheese, you're going to add basil, chives, curry, something I have not used, so I can't tell you anything about it, dill, fennel, thyme, garlic, marjoram, oregano, and sage. Now, at this point, you should be hearing a repeat of a lot of these herbs, most of which you can grow in your own garden. Bring them in, dry them, and keep them to use through the winter. Fish, chervil, never tried it. I can't tell you anything about it. Dill and fennel, Fennel has a licorice flavor. Tarragon, slightly. And then, of course, garlic and parsley and rosemary and thyme. Let me see something about parsley. An unknown to me for many years. A long time ago, you'd go to a nice restaurant and you'd get your meal, and on your plate was this nice sprig of parsley, which I totally ignored, having no clue what it was worth. My mother-in-law's friend, Geneva, clued me in. You actually chew parsley after your meal to clean your breath. If you're going out after a cup of coffee, rather than a breath mint, grab a couple of leaves of parsley and chew your parsley. It does clean your breath. These odd things that come up in lifetimes. Now on fruit, you can use candied angelica, aniseed, cinnamon, coriander, candied ginger, strong, be careful, lemon verbena, yum, very good, nutmeg, rose geranium, and mint. It's a myriad of things you can do with the fruit. You can bake it, you can grill it, you can add these things to it. All of this is mainly to give you something different. We get tired of eating the same thing all the time. And these herbs will give you a way of changing up. When you really didn't cook a different meal, you just added a different herb to it. Now on pork, we have coriander. Again, you're in the cilantro family. Cumin, love cumin. Garlic, ginger, hot peppers, and sage and thyme. Let me warn you about sage. I love it. We mostly only think of it in the fall, or with chicken, or with turkey, with stuffing. Sage is a grab your garden plant. It will take over, like mint, it'll take over the world. So if you're going to plant sage, I suggest again you put the mint or the sage in a pot, put the pot in the ground, leaving the top of the pot above the ground about that far to keep these plants from sending out rhizomes and taking over your garden, but because they're wonderful to have. Chives, again, now that's a perennial. You plant it once and you're going to have it as long as you want it. Same thing with oregano. I gave my daughter some oregano. It's kind of taken over her garden. Oops. Parsley, again, tarragon, and thyme. Thyme you can plant. It's a very small leafed plant, but it's very good. It's very tasty. Like it. Soups, bay leaves, lovage, marjoram again, parsley, savory, rosemary, and thyme. On your vegetables, be they baked, roasted, boiled, whatever you do to them, basil and chives and dill and marjoram, mint and oregano, parsley, savory, tarragon, and thyme. It's all about changing up what you add to these foods rather than just salt and pepper. You don't go too far. You try a little bit, and if you like it, maybe next time you can add a little bit more, just a little bit stronger taste. It might take you a bit to get used to doing that. On the next hand, something else that's fun to make and fun to use is compound butter, and it's very easy to do. Get your butter, a quarter pound, soften it, mash it up. Now you're going to add, for this recipe, a 1/4 tablespoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic, 2 teaspoons of tarragon or rosemary. I would use the tarragon because, frankly, rosemary for me is like chewing on pine needles. It's not a taste that ever took with me, however your taste goes. Finally, chop it up, mix it all together, and then re-roll it and put it back in your paper thing, put it in the refrigerator. You never know when you're going to want to add a slice of that to the top of a piece of chicken, top of a piece of steak, yummo, toast, baked potato, just giving you ideas here. To add a French touch to your food, you add tarragon, chervil, and shallots. Shallots are those expensive little pink onion type things. They're very mild. You may or may not care to use them in lieu of onions. If you want a German flavor to your food, you're going to add anise seeds, which again is that licorice flavor, caraway, onions, and of course sauerkraut. Love German food. Italian, well, we all know what goes in Italian food. It's basil and oregano and garlic and bay leaf. Now, Greek food, you're going to think lemon, mint, are you ready? Cinnamon. Because this was from the Moorish influence in that area centuries ago. And of course, Oriental food, you're going to add coriander, sesame, love sesame seeds, chives, and ginger root. You can buy sesame seeds, they're white, and in large jars. Put them in a baking pan in the oven if you want a lot of them, or just in a dry fry pan, and just toast them. And you have toasted sesame seeds for anything your little heart desires. Now I have a recipe here for herb salt. Not done it, but there's nothing in it that doesn't sound wonderful, so I will pass it on to you. You're going to use Morton salt. That's important because it's the one that will hold the flavor. And you're going to use 1 cup of salt, a half a cup of fresh herbs. Chop them all up. Use parsley, dill, marjoram, or oregano. Use only 1 or 2 that you know go together, and then combine them in a blender until the salt is pale green. Then you're going to spread it out in a sheet pan and put it in the oven at 200 degrees and let it bake in there until it dries out. You're drying out the herbs is what you're doing. When you get it back out, throw it back in the blender to break the salt all up again, and then store it into a tightly fitted container. I probably will do that soon because it would be nice to have a different tasting salt to add to my food. Speaking of salt, I have a heavy hand when it comes to salt. I have ruined several dishes because I got carried away. You know, you put the celery in salt, you put the onions in salt, you put the sun in salt. Well, then I get down to trying to eat my soup and it's salt soup. There's no other flavor. I have learned because of the errors of my way. Now I'm better with not putting so much salt in. But if that happens, if your finished product is too salty, get a potato, cut it up in chunks, put it in whatever it is that's too salty, cook it until that potato is thoroughly fork tender, then take the potato out of the product. It will have absorbed excess salt for you. I think that's a pretty good thing for a potato to do for me. All right. On another hand, garlic. I just can't think of anybody that doesn't like garlic, but you have to be careful. Garlic has been used for 5,000 years. Some of this I'm going to have to read. It's been known to reduce blood cholesterol. Blood cholesterol levels, it reduces the risks of further heart attacks in cardiac patients. It is also a stimulant for the immune system, and it's used as an antibiotic. The strong odor is due to sulfur, which is something our bodies need, is sulfur. The containing compound is sulfur that accounts for most of the medicinal properties. Deodorized preparations are significantly less effective. You can buy garlic pills that you can take. They're far less effective, and they're your choice. Okay. You got to be careful because they can be irritating the stomach while culinary quantities are generally safe. Of course, you don't take it during pregnancy and you don't take it during lactation. It can cause digestive problems such as heartburn. And I just chuckled. And babies may not dislike the taste of your milk. Oh, what a wonderful world. Basil. It's from India. Native to India, was introduced into Europe in ancient times, and some cultures associate basil with hatred and misfortune. Pliny, the historian, recommended smelling it in vinegar for fainting fits. Okay. The leaves are good for rubbing on insect bites. Not tried that, don't know. It can be made into a tea or tonic for nervous exhaustion and cold conditions. Good old rosemary. A favorite herb both medicinally and as a symbol for remembrance. It is a Mediterranean shrub that gradually spread north, was first grown in England in the 14th century. The plant is an excellent tonic and all-around stimulant, and has always been regarded as uplifting and energizing. The leaves are ideal in exhaustion, weakness, and depression. They invigorate the circulation and stimulate digestion. It can be infused into a tea or a tonic. You ready for this one? You can use this infusion as a final rinse for dandruff. I keep finding these fun facts. Now I'm going to share with you keeping fruit fresh. 'Tis the season for strawberries and blueberries and raspberries, and oh, I'm so happy. When you get them home, put them in your colander, wash them clean. Throw away the container. You don't want that. Wash them clean, lift them gently, which you have to do. Then you need a bowl that's going to have a tight-fitting lid. In that bowl, bottom of that bowl, put a couple pieces of, what do I want to call it? Paper towel. That was such a difficult word. Put paper towels in the bottom and then put your fruit in. You don't have to have drained all the water off of it. Tightly cover it. You've sealed out oxygen, so your fruit's not going to rot, and you've sealed in moisture that's going to keep your fruit fresh. And it probably will keep in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 weeks. I do that all the time. There's nothing I love more than my cottage cheese and my fruit. And just as an afterthought, I add some walnuts, crushed walnuts to it. And it's like having dessert. That's all I have for you today, which granted was a lot. But I thank you for watching and say God bless all of you. And I'll talk to you again another time. Bye-bye.